course, this time last night, we were breaking to you, wasn't we, the sad news of the fact that our king has a form of cancer. Well, as you've just been hearing in the headlines there, Prince Harry, he is now in the UK and he has met with his father. Many people now speculating this perhaps is the beginning of a rift being healed. Let's cross live then, shall we, to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who is at Buckingham Palace. Good evening, Cameron. Bring us up to speed with the goings-on today, if you will.
Good evening, Michelle. It's been an incredibly busy day here in central London. Prince Harry landed at Heathrow Airport at around lunchtime. He was quickly whisked off to the VIP Windsor suite, where he was then put into a black SUV and then driven with a police escort into central London to Clarence House, where he arrived shortly after 2:30 p.m. And then he spent around 45 minutes with His Majesty the King. And some are questioning, why is it that, bearing in mind he's flown 10 hours from Los Angeles to London, but he's only spending 45 minutes with his father, who has just been diagnosed with a form of cancer. It seems like an awful long way to go for a 45-minute meeting. He then left Clarence House. The King and Queen left shortly afterwards and drove to Buckingham Palace behind me, where they took off in a helicopter and have now landed at Sandringham following the King's hospital treatment yesterday. He obviously stayed at Clarence House last night. I've also been told by a source close to the Prince of Wales tonight that he has no plans to meet his brother, Prince Harry, while he is in the UK. So in terms of the relationship between William and Harry, that clearly is still very rocky indeed. Yes, it's a bit of an olive branch that Prince Harry and the King have met in person. It's the first time they've seen each other since the King's coronation in May. But the question tonight, Michelle, is where is Prince Harry staying? He was evicted from Frogmore Cottage following the publication of his memoir, Spare. He doesn't have any obvious lodgings to stay in within the United Kingdom, but of course he is the King's son and there are several royal properties he could potentially stay in. But the question is, does he have an official invitation from the royal family?
Interesting stuff. I would suggest a list of hotels that you could perhaps go stay at, but I won't, Cameron, because they've been filled up with migrants. Anyway, thank you very much for that update there. Annunziata, your thoughts on this story?
I think it's all incredibly sad that Harry has caused a lot of damage to the royal family and a lot of damage to his own personal relationships with his immediate family that are going to be very hard to heal. And the King is going to have to lead the way, that I think the number one focus has to be on his current well-being, his support for getting through his cancer. And I'm sure William will do whatever his father asks him to do in relation to this, but I think Harry has to as well, and not make it all about Harry.
Do you think that's possible? Because I've got to say, I covered this story last night, right? And I find that people, they split, I would almost say, into a few different camps. You've got the one side of things that, you know, they really were kind of glued to this sad news yesterday, really passionate about the story, passionate about the goings-on with the family. Then you had this whole collection of people that were just kind of like, you know, there's a lot of other stuff going on in the world, move on. And then there was this other group of people that felt so strongly about Harry, irrespective of anything else, that were kind of getting in touch with me saying he's a traitor, he shouldn't even be allowed back in the UK. So, I mean, there are really strong, whichever side of the dividing line you sit on, there are really strong opinions on Harry still.
I think from reports across the press, one of the things that this has really brought home is quite how important the monarchy is, not just in this country, but internationally, and to the perception of our country, and that the King, as our monarch, represents that very firmly, as the Queen did before him. I think it's hugely important. This doesn't become about Harry. It's got to be a time of calm and recovery and improving health, and a focus on the royals who actually do the job of representing not only the royal family, but our country here and abroad.
Yeah, and I've got to say, when I've been looking at lots of the tributes that have come in, sending well wishes, etc., to the King, so many of them, as you say, they're not just within the UK, but they are much, much further afield. Andy, where are you on it all?
I have to say, I'm in that middle camp that you described. You know, I feel sad for King Charles and his family, as any normal person would. You know, cancer is a very sad thing, and it's nice to see that it's almost uniting the family. You know, Harry's coming over, and I think that's a normal reaction. You know, illness does bring separated families together. But I struggle to give more of a thought to it than that. I'll be honest, it's, you know, I think this should be a wake-up call. You know, it shows that even the very top of our society, our monarch, can get ill. You know, I'd encourage everyone, you know, if you're putting off that test, go and get tested. You know, he found this cancer in a prostate examination and prostate operation. I'd encourage everyone to see this as, wow, if the king can get it, how well looked after he is, anyone can get it.
Yeah, of course. And I think even if you are in that camp, which is, sad news, but lots of other things to focus on. I do think actually so many people, they almost feel like they're untouchable. They go through life and they kind of sit there, I'll never get ill, I'll never get ill. And I do think actually when a high profile person, whoever it is, does get something that has the potential, because cancer, yes, we have a lot more advancements in medication, but cancer is still quite a scary word, especially when it touches your family or indeed yourself. It stops you in your tracks. So I think even those people that are in your camp, it can't help but kind of stop you a little bit and think, actually, like you're saying, look inward, how's my body feeling? How's everything with me? That ailment that I've had for ages and turned a blind eye to, I need to go get it checked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during COVID, I remember when Tom Hanks got COVID, and that was made it almost more real, because it's, oh my God, this guy who I've grown up watching has got ill. And, seeing King Charles, a man that we've known our entire lives, getting ill, it's it just makes it real. Like you said, it just brings it back down to earth. Yeah,
no, I remember, of course, well, we all do anyway, when the Queen died.
Yeah.
And and honestly, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm probably like your average person. I like the royal family, but I don't spend my life obsessing. I don't have tea towels or anything like that. But actually, I remember when the Queen died, of course, she was very old, but that really did stop me. I remember going down to Buckingham Palace, actually, on the way back from here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I was there. I wanted to feel a connection, and then I think I kind of put that onto it made me think of my family members, and I think that's a special power that the royal family do have. It does kind of make you reflect on your own loved ones sometimes.
Particularly with Queen Elizabeth II, the late Queen Elizabeth II. She wasn't just Queen Elizabeth II, she was the Queen. Wherever you'd go across the world, it was the Queen. It wasn't our Queen or a Queen, it was the Queen. So definitely.
And she did, because partly she did live to a great age, I think we all had begun to feel she was sort of immortal.
Yeah.
And it came as a huge, devastating shock to discover that actually, like all of us, the end must come eventually, and her soul had to move on. But she was so emblematic of our country. She'll never quite be replaced, but the King is doing a remarkable job.
He is doing a remarkable job in terms of raising awareness, although there will, of course, be a lot of people that have said, because we don't know more details about the type of cancer, etc., it perhaps has raised a lot more questions than it gave answers. But I think it does also raise this kind of notion about healthcare inequality, because it's all well and good having people, understandably and rightly, raising awareness. But if someone, for example, in the case of a suspected prostate issue, if you can't even get in to see a doctor for a PSA test, then that can be quite scary if you think there's something wrong with you, but you can't get the help that you need.
And there are huge inequalities, not just between the fact that he was at the London Clinic, which is clearly very expensive and very exclusive, but after all, he is the King, but also across the country. The NHS has such different standards in different parts of the country. Different trusts have different outcomes, that I think we really do need to restructure the NHS so that it functions for everyone across the whole nation.
And Michael, one of my viewers, has said, Michelle, absolutely, you want to echo the sentiments about hoping the King gets well. And he says also he feels that there is this kind of discrepancy between the way men's health is treated and funded and regarded versus women's health. So he's saying he hopes now that actually this does put more of a focus on men's health and men's ailments. Andy says, I know it's the King, and it's very sad when anyone gets cancer, but isn't there more important things to talk about? That's in that other camp that I referenced, Andy. Jackie says, why on earth is Harry here so quickly and only for such a short meeting? This is just Harry trying to promote Harry. Well done, William, she says, for not meeting him. We don't want him here. The sooner he leaves the UK, the better. Cool, blimey, Jackie, you're a harsh woman. Don't you want this family to reunite? Or do you think, as I suspect many might think, that actually it's gone a little bit too far? Stephen says, Harry can apologise, sure, but he would be naive if he thought the royal family would trust him ever again. I think that's an interesting point that you make there. And I remember last night when we was talking about Harry potentially coming to the UK, if I had £1 for everyone that was saying things like, I wonder if a Netflix crew, etc., will be in the car with him, then I'd have been a very rich woman.